is the Vintage RPG Podcast, your source for the best in classic and contemporary RPGs. With your hosts, Hambone and Stu.
Welcome to the RPG Podcast, coming at you again from the clubhouse hidden somewhere in the swamps of New Jersey. I'm John Hambone McGuire, and with me, as always, is the founder and publisher of Unwinnable. We both agree the only good Nazi is a dead one, Stu Horvath.
It's true. More bloodily, messily dismembered as possible.
Hear, hear.
But before we get into the game of the week, which is Eat the Reich by Grant Howitt and Will Kirby, I just want to say two quick things. I know we usually do this stuff at the back of the episode, but I'm being a little extra proactive this month. I'd like to just remind everybody that the best way to interact with Vintage RPG stuff is to go to vintagerpg.com. I'd really, really love it if you signed up for the newsletter, which drops every Friday and recaps the week of posts. And if you're at all interested in my scheme for a web ring, you can go to woodpaneled.org and check that out. And if you're interested in that, drop us a line. There's contact info there. I'm having a week where I'm very disappointed in the state of the current internet. I don't want to get into it too much, but I just galvanized to try a different way to staying connected and keep having fun in the RPG space without having to go on social media.
I'm going to tag in real quick here and say this. Obviously, I think the show is great. That said, the reason why we do this show is because of the Vintage RPG Instagram. The reason why we are able to do this show is because Stu does get down to business and really goes through all these books. I mean, the proof's in the pudding, Monsters, Aliens, and Holes in the Ground came from somewhere. It all came from the Instagram. So, finding a way to keep that Instagram, the original Instagram energy of what Vintage RPG started as, going on a different platform where, honestly, if you're sitting at work, if you're on your computer most of the day anyway, I think a good portion of the audience is, man, it just looks better on the big screen. Just pin the tab to your bar and just check it out every day. Get the juice from learning about classic vintage RPGs, reminding about a vintage RPG you had as a kid, or getting turned on to new RPGs on a nice big screen, easy to read font, and not having to worry about never seeing it again on Instagram, because what's I think even if you're paying right now, the algorithm sucks. So, check out vintagerpg.com. I highly, highly recommend it. You're going to love it. Stu's putting a lot of work into it, and that's my 2 cents on the subject.
Man, when I was working regular jobs, and I was doing my duty as a low-key socialist and stealing time from my employer.
Allegedly.
They can't find me now. They can't do anything to me now. I would have killed for a site like vintagerpg.com. I would have spent ages reading it. It was just the perfect bored at work time filler, I think. You're absolutely right. I would just... now, if I had a regular job, I'd probably just doom scroll on Twitter or whatever. That sounds horrible.
No, it's not great for your mental health. I can assure you that vintagerpg.com is better for your mental health than doom scrolling on Twitter.
But I remember, part of my frustration is that I remember going to sites and reading websites. I think that it's one of those things where everybody's like, oh man, but social media, it's the thing, and everybody, you're going to have a real hard time getting people off of the social media. But we used to. We used to do it. We used to go to websites. And I think if we are honest with ourselves about the internet that we want, we can just find it pretty easily. We just have to work a little hard to facilitate that. So if you're into that, come to the site, look at the web ring, etc. But enough of that. Let's talk about killing Nazis.
Hell yeah.
So I didn't actually back the Kickstarter for Eat the Reich. It was a little too much money, and at the time, with the shipping and all that, and I was just I think I was sort of that it might have dropped right around when I was I'm doing too much Kickstarter.
I was in the same exact boat, man. I had already backed 6 things, and I was like, this is a bridge too far for me, but I want it real bad.
And when I was wandering the floor at Gen Con, and I learned that Rowan Rook and Descartes had a booth, I was, of course, going to go over there and see what was what, probably pick up Eat the Reich. And it was so easy to pick it up there. I got the whole deluxe edition in the top secret envelope with all the special character sheets. There's a challenge coin in there and maps. The
That's
map
cool.
is really important for the gameplay, I think. It's a really Will Kirby art just puts this thing in like the top tier of, recent role-playing games. It looks great. Everything is just bright pink and bloody, and it's so over the top visually that like you could just look through this and appreciate it, and I think that you'd feel like you got your money's worth. Same for Grant's writing. Whenever I get a Delta Green publication, I sit down immediately and read it. I enjoy reading them. They function almost like horror novels for me, or horror short stories if it's a short scenario, but they aren't. I am entertained by them, but I am not entertained in the way that Eat the Reich is an entertaining book. The way Grant wrote this, he's like talking directly to you, and it's very, very funny and charming in his enthusiasm for the dismemberment of Nazis. Just the way he talks about everything, it really is like he's sitting down for a cup of tea with you to discuss the ins and outs of Nazi destruction. There's a ton of safety tools, of course, because how to run the game, how to make Nazis seem monstrous without becoming monstrous yourself at the table. Being sensitive to people's a variety of issues can come up
Of
in
course,
a
game.
It's just like, ooh. And he's really frank about the idea of this just being like a reaction to kind of the state of the world and wanting to make a piece of like really violent anti-Nazi propaganda. And it really works on just that level. I think that if you buy this book and you're I don't even want to say like if you're right, if you're on the wrong side of this, like what's wrong with you, man?
Yeah. Not the target audience, I think.
Yeah. But I think anybody can pick this up and have a good time with it, with such clear villains to cathartically ruin in increasingly diabolical ways. So the idea is that this is a parallel history where the occult is real, and World War II hasn't been going so well, and in a last-ditch effort, the British have collected a crack team of vampire commandos and are coffin dropping them into Paris, where Hitler is holed up with his occult scientists developing a war werewolf. And the vampire's mission is to get coffin dropped in and basically kill everything in sight, and eventually drink Hitler's blood.
Sweet baby James, put it in my veins.
It is really unapologetic, and that is really the game. It is really just like if your characters are pausing for introspective moments, or if there's like a big sort of conspiracy yarn developing, you're playing it wrong. Like you're really supposed to like hit the target site, go from a point to point to point until you get to the Hitler's bunker and kill him. And it's like combat, like in the most bloody, gruesome, deliriously violent way possible along those points. Grant recommends that you play like 1 to 2 hour sessions, probably need like 3 or 4 to get through the whole thing, depending on how much time, because he's pretty honest that he's just like, you can only do this game for so long before like you're just like, oh god, I need to take a break.
I can appreciate that.
Yeah, and the only other game where I think that was self-aware about that, I think is telling, that I can think of, is Toon, where Toon was very much designed as like an appetizer game before the real game. It's just like, get those sillies out for half hour, 45 minutes, because we can't possibly continue this game for a 3-hour session, you know? I think Eat the Reich kind of brings a similar sort of energy. Everybody, they're pre-generated characters, all very interesting, all very obviously interesting. You get role-playing notes just from looking at Will Kirby's art. They're designed to sort of complement different play styles. Like, so it is a combat game, but it's also very much a narrative game. It has a lot of the hallmarks of story games, which some people might be uncomfortable with, like me. So I would probably want to play Flint, who is like a bat creature who doesn't talk.
There you
So
go.
it like lowers the threshold. And then like there's the character, like if you want to be the character who shoots everything, you have the shoot character. And then you have, if you want to be the character that tears Nazis in half with their bare hands, you have that character. And then there's two charming characters of different sort of charms. There's a necromancer who's like sort of really very improvisational, and then there's like a schmoozing noble vampire. I think that's all of them. Oh, then there's Chuck, who's just like, he's really friendly. He's like an Old West vampire. Yeah, and then that's everybody. So everybody plays one of those characters. The system is also very interesting. It's dice pool, D6s, whatever you're doing. Like you're in the spot and there's a threat, and like the threat might be like a unit of soldiers or whatever. And the threat has a danger rating of like 3 or 4 for like regular rank and file soldiers. And then there's like super soldier, like occult creatures that come up later that have higher challenge ratings. So the GM just rolls for their villain. So like, let's say there's a unit, it has a difficulty rating of 4. Roll 4 dice, 6-sided dice. If 1, 2, and 3, GM gets nothing. 4, 5, and 6, they get a success plus 1 damage or whatever. Technically, the GM rolls later, but I feel like that's a good place to start because that's the basic roll. For players, you have a lot more options because you're awesome. The game is really stacked, go figure, so that like it's a power fantasy about killing Nazis. So the game is really interested in giving you the tools to help you tell your story about, horribly murdering Nazis every inch of your journey. So when you roll, your role is going to do a whole bunch of things. So, but you want to base it in the thing that you're really good at. So if you're the shooty vampire, you're going to use your shoot skill, and that's going to immediately give you 4 dice off the top of the pile. You get 4 dice to start with, and then you factor in all these bonuses. You can get bonuses for your vampiric abilities. You can get bonuses for special abilities of your equipment. You could get situational bonuses. Basically, like the game is like here, we got a whole bunch of dice. Let's get them into play. So you could do a whole bunch of cool stuff. You roll your dice, and it's the same basic cutoff. 1, 2, 3, those are fails. You just remove them. But then you have sort of 2 tiers of success. 4 and 5 for players is success plus 1 damage or plus 1 defense or plus 1 blood. And then 6 is critical. So you get plus 2 damage, plus 2 defense, or plus 2 blood, or you could activate a special ability. And you have all of those. So board game, like you have all of those sitting in front of you, and you have to allocate them to the different things that you could do on your turn. You could defend, right? And that's just literally taking away the successes that the GM rolled. Easy. You could use them. You could apply them to blood, which means that you're sucking blood and healing yourself. You could use them to eliminate the threats, just doing damage and such, or advance the objective, or activate the special. So like you're doing all this stuff, you're triggering a whole bunch of stuff by saying like, I shoot my gun. And then you get all these successes, and those successes are encouraging you to like describe the scene. How are you shooting your gun and like killing the Nazis or advancing the objective or sucking their blood or whatever? Like how is this scene coming together? And you do that, then your turn is over, and then it moves to the next player. And it's just, it really inspires, I think, a rapid fire mayhem.
Also, it sounds like a tactical combat meets storytelling.
Yes, it very much is. And I think that the one thing when I was talking about this in the Discord, people were like, it turned into a tactical game. And I do think that like it might, players like me or you who come from an earlier thing are going to like want it to on like an instinctive level. We're going to just naturally drag it into a more tactical thing. But I don't think it actually has to be. I think that you could theater of the mind all of this. I think that that's sort of a symptom of what Grant warns about, is that like you could only play this for short bursts, because like I think that one of the things that you're going to do if you play it for longer is you're going to want it to be tactical. You're going to want to like get into like I'm flanked or whatever, and it's just like that's not this game. Like you want your vampire to dive into a throng of people and like turn them into red mist. I think because I feel like that's the way that my impulses in reading it, I feel like that's how I would do it. I think that if I resist those impulses, it would be a very fast game. I really want to play it. I want to do it as a one shot, but I can't because I'm doing the West Marches. But I really want to play this so bad.
I mean, honestly, like I'm gonna buy it. I'm gonna run it for the patrons.
Nice.
Probably in October.
I might get in on that.
Yeah, I mean, I was racking my head the other night as we finished up Mothership. As Mothership just went the exact way that Mothership should always go. Oh my god, it was amazing. I was like, I need something to run for Halloween. I need something to run for like October. So yeah, I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna buy it and I'll run it.
Nice. Yeah. In true sort of World War II, like Dirty Dozen fashion, there's like a bunch of like cool stuff. Like if your vampire somehow is dying, like you get like a special ability that is like, you know, you take out like a whole platoon. Like everybody has their own special like sacrifice power. Also, special items give you bonuses. You're really encouraged to you land with your kit, but like you're encouraged to discard your weapons when they're no longer useful and replace them with stuff that you're finding in the environment. Stuff like tanks, you know?
Oh yeah. That's awesome.
And it's just it feels like there's just a constant upping of the ante just inherent in the game. I think it's really great. I think that it is a very specific experience. I really appreciate the idea of this kind of bespoke targeted experience. Like there's really only one game you're going to get out of this.
Yeah.
I mean, you might play it a bunch of different times, but the core experience is always going to be the same. You're going to be a bunch of vampires who are coffin dropped in, and you're going to kill Hitler and drink his blood, and he's going to run away and piss himself like a little baby because that's what he should do.
I mean, it's a very specific game.
Yeah.
We're going to be very like, if you haven't figured it out by now, this is a very specific game. You're only going to get one kind of experience out of it. You know, this is not open to interpretation. This is what the game is, and I think that's what the most glorious thing about this game is.
Yeah.
Is that like you know what kind of party you're going to.
Yeah. Yeah. It's it's everything that Inglourious Bastards promised to be with more blood.
See, and you know what? It's so funny that you mentioned that. I was thinking about that. Just thinking about the title of like Eat the Reich, and I was like, man, you know what? First off, right off the bat, just someone saying those words to you in my brain, when I first heard it, I was like, if it's a movie, I will go to see this movie. If it's a book, I will read this book. If it is a game, I will play this game. If it's a band, I'm going to listen to it. It's a perfect title.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it's important. Like, you know, what we do, you know, what we do is it's all fantasy. You know, we have a lot of fantasy stuff. It's very cool that we're able to do the things that we do and like live in a world where we can like commit to these fantasies and like play these games and stuff like that. And, you know, I think on another level, you know, one of the things that's great is that we're able to keep the spirit of, oh yeah, don't forget, guys, Nazis are fucking terrible. Like they were the bad guys for a reason.
Yeah.
Like they have never been redeemed. They never will be redeemed. Like there's never going to be a day where you're going to be like, hey, you know what? All right, cool. Yeah, you know, it's fine. I could be a Nazi. No, like you are actually, you know, it's one of those things where there's no interpretation of it, and nor should there ever be an interpretation of it. Like, you know, I know there are people who will often identify as things that are uncool. We're gonna vague this a little bit, and yet there are ways where I think that in their minds, to others, they could possibly try to spin it or justify it somehow, because, you know, every villain thinks they're the hero to a degree, right?
Yeah.
But not Nazis. Like,
no,
there is a very clear-cut line where it's like, well, you dress up like Darth Vader for Halloween, there's little shades of gray there, you know, kind of pulled one out at the end in Jedi and, you know, show the of his ways. If you get dressed up like a Nazi, well, let me tell you something, brother, you are in real bad shape no matter where you go, because
you should just expect to get punched in the face repeatedly.
I mean, we're not people who advocate for violence, but, you know, there are certain situations where, like, if someone's like, yeah, man, this dude walked in, he's dressed like a Nazi, and some dude clocked him, you're like, well, that tracks.
Yeah. No, I think that what you're saying is that this looks like, because it's like an ultra violent, you know, game that's encouraging gleeful descriptions of horrible violence, you would think that would make this a controversial game, but because it's Nazis, it's deeply uncontroversial. And if you're going to argue about it, I think that you need to really realize sort of,
that's a wrong tree you're barking up, dog.
Yeah. It's like, why are you arguing? This is not controversial. This is we should all feel this way, sort of reflexively.
Like I know like years ago there was, you know, a lot of discourse in the RPG world about like, you know, rebranding orcs and rebranding certain evil races and just different things, and a lot of merit to a lot of discussions and a lot of, you know, good-hearted places where the stuff came from.
Yeah.
There's no spinning a Nazi. Like there should never be that conversation. It's like, well, it's like, no, there's no well. It's there. This is a pretty black and white issue. You are a good guy, you're a Nazi.
Yep. So it provides a very specific cathartic experience, and there aren't a lot of games like that, I think. Certainly not on a political level. You know, Alice is missing, and to an extent, the Alien cinematic scenarios are very sort of structured in giving that idea of like the really specific experience. But I think that Eat the Reich really takes it to another level, and just the joy in which it takes, and its matching overpowered systems to its theming is really nice to see.
Yeah, what's actually going to be nice to see is all the people who make the comments about how we've gone woke by making a pretty clear statement about Nazis being bad. And if you feel that you need to do that, good for you, buddy. You can just unsubscribe to the show as well.
Yeah, don't join the newsletter if that's your.
Yeah, that also may be a fool's errand for you there, bud. But you know, I think it's
frustrate yourself.
It's just not going to be great. You know, but I think it's just, you know, important to remember, because all kidding aside, you know, as much as, you know, we are gleefully enjoying about dismembering Nazis and whatnot, like there's a very, very real reason why they are abhorrent and why they're bad and why they'll never be redeemed. And I shudder to think that we maybe decades wise are becoming too far removed from the incident. And that's why it's important that you talk about it. It's important why you remember these things, because there will be a generation of kids who like it won't even register. Like, you know, World War II, D-Day, Pearl Harbor, all that stuff, you know, the camps, like it won't even be on their radar. Just be like another fact in the history books. Just like for us, you know, Washington cutting down the cherry tree or whatever the fuck it was. Like, you know, there's a certain degree of like getting too far away from it. Just like, you know, when you look at a child now who's in maybe the first, second grade, and you have teachers trying to explain to them what 9/11 was, and it means nothing to them. Yet, like, the hairs on the back of most of our necks just stand up a little bit when we mention even the numbers. So, you know, just bear that in mind. Don't forget the horrors of the past, and look forward to the future with hope.
This is an excellent reminder of the horrors of the past without having to like necessarily like dig too deep into them.
Yeah. And then just remember to get your kicks putting pointy things into the eyeballs of your enemies that are Nazis, because Nazis are bad.
Yeah. No stakes for vampires.
Oh God. Yeah. You know what? You're right. I just, as I say that out loud, I'm like, oh, maybe not the sticks. Just stick with sharp objects, not silver, no garlic. Man, what a great concept though, dude. Like the dude is just a fantastic writer, just such a beautiful brain for these great ideas. And like this one is very much like just cool on so many levels, and just such a, like, when you say it out loud, you're like, yeah, that's the fucking concept I want to be involved in. That's great. That's something I want to know. I want to do. He's
in my pool of people who I consider so talented that I find it like aggravating on a certain level that I'm not talented like that.
Oh God, it's the worst, isn't it?
It's like Kyle Patterson, who did the art for my book, Grant Howitt, like everything, like, and it's not even like the big games that really sold me on Grant as like being like frustratingly talented. It's like Honey Heist is like for me such a legendary game. Like, and it annoys me that I didn't think of it first, but he just does this stuff, and it's like seems like he cranks out all this stuff and he makes it look so effortless, and I'm jealous. I'm deeply jealous of Grant Howitt.
I don't say it out loud, like, when you really, you know, as a person now who designs games, right? Like, And I've played a lot of games, and we've talked about a lot of games over the last 7 years. I've been involved in helping other people develop their games, and like it all for me comes back to Honey Heist, which is a perfect game. Like I don't know that I don't know that there'll ever be a better game than Honey Heist, to be quite honest.
It really is so compact and perfect. The hat table is the thing that like
Hat
pushed it
table.
over. It's just like, God, fuck, man. Like little hats, bears who are stealing honey. Like what?
Listen, I ran this several times during the pandemic, and like of all the games I ran during the pandemic, I think the people who played Honey Heist had the most fun, and like I literally like while Stu was making some points, I just ordered this on the internet. So I am very much committed to running this game. Dear listener, if you're a patron at my tier or Stu's tier in October, and I'm going to coordinate with Stu so Stu could play as well, we're playing Eat the Reich. And if there's so much interest in it that we got to do it multiple days, I will run this multiple times in October.
There is guidance for sort of convention play. I did the air quotes as I said that. Can you hear it when I do that? I don't know.
Maybe ASMR and do it like right by the mic, so you hear like too low.
Convention play. For like a single 3-hour session. There is guidance for how to like kind of speed it up. That I don't know if you want to do that, but like other people might want to one shot this. I do kind of see the appeal of one shotting it, but I also see the appeal of dragging it out a little bit, at least to 2 sessions. But there is it is sort of like a known conundrum for the game that that Grant addresses in the text, so you can check that out.
Yeah, I mean, it looks cool. I'm flipping through the PDF right now. Like there's a page with a tongue on it that got ripped out, and I'm just like,
it's so good. The art it's just so energetic. Kirby's art. It's been a long time, I feel like, since I've seen a role-playing game like so densely illustrated by one artist and come off so on theme. I really appreciate it. It's more like this, please.
It's what this is, and I mean, yeah, I'll tell you, like as I'm thumbing through this, like we all have those movies where you're like, you see the vision of the director, and you're like, and from the trailer, you're like, this is gonna be the coolest movie I've ever seen, but then you have like studio interference, which makes it decidedly not the coolest movie you've ever seen.
Right.
But like the idea is there. Like I think a lot of reasons why, like and this is gonna be like a little under the radar for a lot of our listeners, but there's a movie called Lisa Frankenstein that recently came out where like it is not a great movie, but like aesthetically and the vibe and everything that they're going for, like they're constantly making new merch for it. It's constantly all over my feed. It's more of like a younger teen kind of thing, but it's like one of those things where like they sold you on one thing and like this like Tim Burton-esque aesthetic and vibe, and then you get something completely different. But this is the opposite of that. Like, I mean, it brings me back to like the Tank Girl movie. It brings me back to like,
there is a little bit of Tank Girl in here for sure.
And like you're just reading this, you're like, oh yeah, there's no studio interference on this, and that's the beautiful thing about RPGs. There's like no studio interference. Like you are getting the movie that you want to see, and you actually get to play in that movie. So like this is a pretty fucking cool.
I mean, just the character sheets, man. Like it's a spread, and like I've had this book, I've read about it, I already wrote about it for next year, but only now am I realizing that the spread is like their coffin. On the right side is the portrait of the vampire like laying in their coffin, and the character sheet is written on the inside of the coffin lid, and every vampire has a different kind of coffin that like aligns with their personality. Like Irina, who is like the noble vampire, has like a Dracula coffin, but then like the necromancer like sleeps in like what looks like a weird kind of sarcophagus, and like Chuck, who comes from the Old West, is in a pine box, and it's just like it's like you get there's Kirby's artwork is doing a whole lot of work for you that you don't even realize, because I didn't even realize.
But like they take it a step further, and this is the kind of cool thing that happens when and listen, dear listener, for some of you, this is maybe your first episode of the Vintage RPG podcast. We're coming a little hot and heavy talking about like killing Nazis, and I know that's not every week, I can assure you of that, but like one of the things that's going to happen to you or has happened to you a lot, and I'm sure that we have a lot of mad special somebodies out there and significant others that are like, what did you buy? Why did you buy that? It's like, well, Stu and Hambo. It's like, well, listen, as much as Stu gets you with that effect where like we start talking about some stuff and like the Stu effect hits you and then you're spending your money and you're buying RPGs that maybe, you didn't have any room for on your shelf. Like, I want you to know that this is probably like the third time this year it's happened to me too, when I'm literally buying the game while Stu's talking on my computer. So, like, don't feel like you're alone in this. Your old buddy HB gets taken down that rabbit hole, too. And I'm glad I did, because as I open this up, something very cool I've noticed is this. So I bought the package where you get the soft cover and the PDF, right? Mm-hmm. But they give you 2 PDFs, which I think is very, very cool, because one is the web accessible PDF with all the cool art and all the cool graphics, all the stuff that makes you really pop hard when you're reading this book. The second PDF is a mono text only, where it's just the text.
Nice.
And it's just plain Jane character sheets that you could like print out and give to your players, and like all the basic information where like if it's not great for your eyes to read the actual art text on the fly, like I could just print this out and just hold this in my hand and run this as is and feel very confident that I'm just reading the important parts of this. It's like a very cool thing that they did. And that's why, Grant Howitt's the best. Like, yeah. Wow, that's fucking great. that is just such a, I am like, floored by this.
I gotta say, like, this year I've done it to you. You've had to buy books while recording with me, which is hilarious. But I think that everybody who gets upset about the amount of stuff they buy because the podcast forgets that I buy everything first.
This is true. This is true.
I bought all of this stuff. I got shelved. I got to store it. You guys get to cherry pick. I'm the one who's really suffering.
Yeah, we're sponsored by no one, folks. So,
just my own stupidity.
Yeah. Yeah, and me following that right off the cliff and buying stuff as we're talking about it. But yeah, I am very psyched about this. I'm actually going to post about it today. If you're a patron, well, by the time you hear this episode, it'll be October. But if you're a patron, you'll already know this. We're going to be setting up Eat the Reich adventures, and we're going to run this game.
Halloween is every day, right? Every day is Halloween.
Yeah, exactly. I
mean, if we have like a huge swell of interest,
Diamond.
Yeah, come on, play. We'll run and Eat the Reich into January.
Dude, I mean, I ran Mothership a lot longer than I was planning on running Mothership, but and again, shout out to the people who make Mothership. What a fun game y'all made, and it's just as a person who runs games, it's so pleasurable to see the thing that you think is going to happen actually happen. It's just chef's kiss. All right, well, I mean, do you have any final thoughts? You good to go?
I'm pretty good to go. I think that my final thought is just like, if you're interested in a short and sweet, very specific experience that involves vampires and killing Nazis, I got a game for you, and you should go buy it.
Yeah, get it at rowanrookanddeckard.com, and you jump in the Discord if you forget. Where did I get that book? We'll let you know. We'll give you a link. So this has been another amazing episode of the Vintage RPG Podcast. Stu, where can the people find you?
Like I said at the top of the episode, they can find me at vintagerpg.com. There's no ads, there's no algorithms, but there are 500,000 words and something like 13,000 pictures about role-playing games on there to keep you really busy while you're doing your duty, not working at the office.
Very cool. You can find me across the internet at John McGuire RPG, mostly posting on Instagram. I'm out in the world. I'm going places. I'm doing things. See me in my plus-size Beetlejuice costume, which is actually like legit. It's not a joke. My actual costume, when I bought it on the internet, it said plus-size Beetlejuice because I'm a little bit of a bigger dude. So, yeah, that's what I'm being for Halloween this year. There'll be pictures of me there doing that. I'm going to ShireCon. I'm going to have some pictures up from ShireCon when I went over to ShireCon. Sleepy Hollow. There's going to be a lot of cool stuff happening in October. I'm going to actually take pictures of. You're going to see me out and about in the world. If you want to do your buddy a solid, if you love the show, you love your old buddy HB, there is a link right now which will let you get notified when we go live for the first time on BackerKit. The next crowdfunding campaign for 3-2-1 Action RPG. We are doing an expanded rule book with 4 adventures, and we wanted to do our own monster book. It is called the Encyclopedia Monstergoria, and we are going to be launching that on October 22nd. So please get notified. Please back this backer kit crowdfunding thing. One thing I'll tell you, Stu, it's kind of funny. Coming into 5 years doing 3-2-1 Action RPG, the savvy businessman that I am, I realized that we never actually launched a rule book. We just started making adventures and just kept going, and we're like, something's missing. We had a rule book. We never actually launched a rule book. So this backer kit campaign is going to be very important for us. An expanded hardcover rule book with 4 adventures in the back of it, a Encyclopedia Monstergoria. We got some other cool stuff as well. Just for signing up, you get a solo adventure PDF zine on the 22nd when we go live. So just check that out on Backer Kit. You can find it at links at 3-2-1actionrpg.com. You can find it in links in my stories and my bios. If you like the show, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. Your reviews really do help other listeners to find us. And if you really like the show, why not become a patron? Patreon.com/vintagerpg. For as little as $1 a month, you get early release episodes, sometime like Friday or Saturday, depending on when we record them. At the $5 tier, you can get in and play in a game with me. And as you know, this month I'm going to be doing Eat the Reich. At the $10 tier, you can get in on Stu's West Marches campaign and in on my monthly game as well. So you get the best of both worlds there. We've got a behind-the-scenes look at the stuff Stu's working on. We got a behind-the-scenes look at the stuff that I'm working on, and a killer Discord community we'd love to be a part of. Patreon.com/vintagerpg. So for Stu Horvath, I'm John Hambone McGuire. May the dice always roll in your favor.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like, review, and subscribe to the podcast. Every review helps other listeners to find us. The Vintage RPG Podcast is a ham-fisted production. Music by Dego West. Art by Schaefer Brown. If you like the podcast, you should also consider becoming a patron at patreon.com.